What's up guys, Cameron here from Drums and Drams. Today I've got a sample review for all of you, and the reason that it's a sample and not a full bottle is because, well, there's two reasons really. Number one, I'm never gonna find a bottle of this stuff. And number two, if I do find a bottle, it's probably gonna be marked up at the secondary price, which at this point is about $700 to $750. Yes, I am talking about Old Fitzgerald 17-year, the Bottled in Bond decanter series from Heaven Hill. What you see here on the table is actually the 15-year version, which was, I believe, from fall 2019. This is the only Old Fitz decanter that I've ever owned. I am nursing the rest of this bottle because it's so incredibly good. The person that I have to thank for my addiction to this stuff is Matt Porter over at ADHD Whiskey. Matt, it's a blessing and a curse, but this 15-year is incredible, which makes me even more excited for the 17-year that I'm gonna be tasting today. This sample was provided by Sean L., who is also known as Latte Dad in the chat. I believe it's Latte Dad, or else I'm mispronouncing that word terribly. But anyways, thank you, Sean, for sending this sample along. I really appreciate it because I didn't think I was gonna have the opportunity to taste the Old Fitz 17 this year. I've already taken a couple little sips. I've shared it with my wife, Sarah. She loves this stuff. I'm gonna tell you right now, I love this stuff. So this is not gonna be a, one of those is it good or not reviews. No, we're just gonna talk about how this thing tastes, and it's really just gonna be about how good is the stuff, okay? So this is 17 years old. It was released this year, I believe spring of 2022. Bottled in Bond, 100 proof, obviously, with that designation. Beautiful decanter, and the 17-year, which I'm sure you're going to see on the thumbnail after I make it, has a green label on the front, not this darker label here. Let's just go ahead and get into this. I am so excited to finally make this review, so let's see what we get here on the nose. Wow, so this whiskey smells thick and rich and like it's gonna be viscous when I get it on the palate. There's a ton of just sweetness here and really like a lot of quintessential Heaven Hill notes that you would expect from something like this. You're getting your baking spices, your cinnamon, your nutmeg. You're getting a little bit of peanut in there, although it's definitely not a peanut forward whiskey, which personally I appreciate. But I would say what really stands out about this is just how sweet it is. It's clearly picked up a lot of influence from spending 17 years in the barrel. It's not over oaked by any means. And before I continue going on about how great this smells, let me just go in for another nosing here. All right, so I would say the standout note on this whiskey is chocolate. That's probably the primary thing that's jumping out of the glass, almost like you took a sort of like a semi-sweet baker's chocolate, you threw it into like a bowl or something, put it in the microwave and melted it down. Tons of just really dense chocolate notes. I would actually say this almost smells like bourbon concentrate, if that was a thing. You know how you have sometimes like a Kool-Aid packet and you're gonna pour it in, or anything like a liquid IV, pour it into some water. This is like if you took bourbon concentrate or bourbon powder and you put too much in the water. It's so dense and packed full of flavor. There's some good vanillas in here, which that's a note when you're getting like a creamy, thick vanilla that is very like reminiscent of spending a lot of time in the barrel. That's definitely happening on the nose here. And then one other thing that I'm picking up, which I get in some Dusties, I also get in some older Armagnacs, is a combination of clove and really dark, almost like caramelized orange notes. So a lot going on here. We are talking about a wheated bourbon, so it's gonna be on the sweeter side of things. Certainly not as much spice as one of the like the ride bourbons coming from Heaven Hill, like an Elijah Craig barrel proof. This is just a beautiful nose, extremely well balanced, and I'm not gonna keep talking anymore. I'm just gonna take a sip of this thing. I am very excited, so cheers, guys. Wow, that is just purely incredible whiskey. One thing that stands out about it as I get it onto the palate here is just the mouthfeel. The minute that you take a sip of this whiskey, it feels luscious and velvety and smooth, not in the sense that it lacks flavor, but just in the sense that it envelops the palate almost immediately. It takes over, but it's not aggressive. Full of those sweet flavors. I love the fact that you're getting a combination of kind of like ice cream shop barrel notes, vanilla chocolate. You're getting a little bit of that fruity quality from the orange. You're getting a good amount of spice. It's certainly aromatic with those clove notes. It resembles a dusty whiskey, you know, stuff from the 70s and 80s, old Stitzel Weller. This definitely has qualities that some of those whiskeys from, you know, 40, 50 years ago had. And that's really cool to see from something that's being produced, you know, as a modern expression coming from a legacy distillery like Heaven Hill. So hats off for, you know, just producing a great whiskey. This is the perfect time to pull this out of the barrel, in my opinion. And now there's a 19 year. So I'm gonna be extra curious to try that 19 year, but the 17 is a home run. This is about as perfect as a wheated bourbon as you can ever expect nowadays. And it definitely, in my mind, competes with a lot of Dusties as well. So with that said, let's go on to this 15 year very quickly. Check it out on the nose. Yeah, a little bit lighter on the nose for the 15 year. And this one, while it is lighter and not quite as densely packed with flavor, there are actually a couple of darker notes in there. So that sounds a little counterintuitive, but I promise it's not. What I mean is that you're getting like some grape notes in here, kind of like a candied sweet grape note, almost like what you would expect from a Buffalo Trace product. And you're not getting quite as much of the sort of chocolate thing that I got from the 17 year. Yeah, and along with the fact that this is a little bit lighter, there's this sort of bundt cake or white cake kind of lightness and airiness about it. Maybe bundt cake is not the right way to describe an airy cake, but it's a little bit of like this fluffy white cake type note that I'm getting from the 15. Again, that's something that I find on some Dusties as well. It's almost like comparing two modern interpretations of a Dusty whiskey. This one being on the lighter side and the 17 year being a little bit on the darker side. So with that said, I'm gonna get this 15 year on the palate. Cheers. And that description absolutely translates to the palate as well. Getting those darker notes like that grape, that sweet oak. This one has still a little bit of chocolate, I guess, on the palate. I wasn't getting quite that much on the nose. Some of that chocolate note, but I'm gonna say the one thing that the 15 year kind of has in droves that I'm not a big fan of is that peanut note. This one is really peanut butter forward. I don't know that I picked that up so much when I drank it by itself, but in this comparison, it becomes a little bit more obvious. So while I would still consider the 15 year to be one of my favorite whiskeys out of the several hundred bottles I own, that 17 year is just in a league of its own. This is like whiskey of the year material, top whiskey over the last couple of years, right up there with the Heaven Hill 17 and other stuff. I mean, what more can you ask for in a tasting like this? Old Fitz 15, Old Fitz 17, both stellar A+ kind of whiskeys. Thank you guys so much for checking this out. If you can't tell, I like this stuff. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Thanks again to Sean for sending this sample along. Thanks, but no thanks, Matt, for getting me addicted to this 15 year. I'll catch you guys next time here on Drums and Drams. I'm gonna end with the final sip of this 17 year. Go check out the Patreon if you wanna help support the channel. Cheers, and I'll see you next time.